welcome to the channel. I'm Summer. Today we are going to be creating layers for days on our mannequin to give lots of movement and texture to your hair, whether you wear it straight or curled. I will also later in the video be showing you curling tips and tricks so you can always make sure you have the perfect curls every time you curl your hair. I also want to say thank you to today's sponsor. Skin Research Institute was kind enough to sponsor this video. I never work with a company that I truly don't enjoy the products, and they are a big reason why I'm able to keep bringing you content each and every week. With that being said, let's get to the cut. Okay, so as you guys can see, this mannequin has really long hair. There is no layers whatsoever. It is completely one length. So I'm not gonna be cutting the length today. We're gonna be just solely focusing on creating layers. So we have so much more shape and movement. So this isn't just like hanging down at her face. So what I'm gonna do first, and I'm gonna cut these maybe a little different than I typically do. I'm gonna be bringing everything towards the face for the most part in the front. I'm sort of taking inspiration from one of my original butterfly haircuts that I'll link below in the pinned comment, where I bring everything forward, but I'm not gonna be getting is like butterfly with it. So I'm gonna separate front from the back, come in, I'm at a little bit of an angle here at the ear, and I'm gonna repeat that on the other side as well. All right, so what we are going to do first is we're gonna create our guide for all of our layers in the front, essentially creating like our face frame, but everything's coming forward. So I'm gonna first take a slight triangle section here where I'm coming right at the edge of that eyebrow. And then what we're gonna do is start creating basically our layer. So when you are creating layers with really long hair like this, you wanna take into account how long the hair naturally is. Like I said, we're not cutting length. So I want this to flow where they don't look like too overly short, but where they have a ton of movement. If you were to take this and you cut all the layers, like let's say you make the shortest layer here eye level, and you go and do that all the way around, you're gonna get sort of that mullet vibe. So we're gonna start this actually below the chin by a good like 1.5 inches. So that way it gives us some wiggle room, and we can always bring it up after the fact if we need to, but I wanna make sure that I don't overcut because this is really long. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna comb this straight down. I'm coming to the center point. This is a side part, so I'm not completely center with the face. I'm bringing it to the center of wherever the part is. And we are going to flip the hair, twist it once. I'm a good 1+ inch here from that chin, and cut. I'm gonna let that down, take a look at it, and that'll round out nice. And then all I'm gonna do now is to create a little bit more of an angle here. And I'm just gonna cut that corner. And that'll help to soften it up as we move down into the rest of our layers face frame. And just do the same on the other side. And then I will just check these little front 2 corners. Just barely right there. All right, so I'm gonna start on the heavier side where we part the hair just because there's more hair to work through there. And we're gonna take our first section, and I'm just gonna clip this other side back so I never accidentally touch it. All right, so what we're gonna do to start this, we're just gonna work in small sections. So a little bit at a time, and we're essentially gonna be bringing everything forward and cutting. So I've got my first guide here, and I'm gonna be using the wide side of my comb just so I don't pull like too tight. And we're gonna comb that straight down, and you're gonna follow your guide. So I see my point in here. We're here at our part. I'm kind of dead even to the part. I'm not coming across it. I'm not coming back from it. I'm coming straight down on this part. So let me show you that a little bit better. We're just coming straight down in line. Twisting. I see my main guide here. Cut. Come in, take our next section, and I'm doing slight diagonals. I'm not coming straight down on it. It's a diagonal where you're kind of over directing these top hairs forward. Again, we're combing this hair, coming even with that part. See my gut up here? My hands are always at an angle pointing down. I need to leave her like that for you guys to see. So I'm gonna repeat that. I'm coming straight down. I'm even with her part line here. My fingers are at an angle. I see my guide, cut. I'm gonna grab this same piece of hair, cut. And we're gonna repeat that all the way through these sides before we move into the back. All right, and then we're gonna come in and grab our next piece for our section. We're at a slight angle. And then comb this hair back. So the layers that we're creating, they're more of like a medium layer. I would say that they're not crazy short, but you're gonna get so much more movement with how long this was, because like I said, this was completely one length. So you're gonna be able, whether you wear it straight or curled, you're also gonna see a ton of movement compared to with it all one length. And all one length haircut just looks really heavy and dense. And then like I said, we're also gonna be curling the hair today as well after we get it dry. Curls allow for all that movement and texture, like I just mentioned, to be shown throughout the hair. Curling your hair, I understand, can be a challenge. I've had several clients say that it was a huge struggle for them, but I'm gonna be showing you a simple way to get your curls perfect by using the Super Curl 3-in-1 rotating curling iron from Skin Research Institute. SRI was kind enough to sponsor today's video, and I am so obsessed with this iron. A rotating curling iron literally does the work for you, making it so easy. You simply place your section of the hair into the clamp, leave out just enough of your ends, hold the button, and it gently glides up your hair. It has 3 beep notifications that you can use to help you know how long your hair has been on the iron, beeping at 8, 12, and 16 seconds. When you go to let your hair out, you will have the perfect curl that was formed by letting the iron do the work for you. You also have the option to change the direction of the curl as well, rotating left or right, so you can get even more movement in your hair. And what I love most about this iron is that you get not 1, but 3 barrels to choose from, meaning you can create 3 different size curls with just one tool. Having size options is great because you will always have a barrel that will fit your hair at any length, and creating multiple looks as well. Later in the video, when I use it to curl the mannequin, I will explain more on what size works best for different lengths. The Super Curl will be linked below along with a discount code for you to check out. So as you can see, we're getting a nice angle that's forming here down to create more shape throughout the hair, sort of our face frame. And after we get through each side, I'm gonna be going in and adjusting the layers a little bit more to add more movement. So again, we're coming in at a little bit of a diagonal, small sections at a time, and clip that hair back if you need. And we're combing everything straight down and forward. Now I'm gonna follow the same point we have right here and come in to start grabbing more of that side hair that's more closer to the ear. I see my guide. My fingers are pointed down at an angle. Cut. So we're combing all this hair forward here to the front. I'm using the wide side of my comb. Got hair up here, cut. And then we've got our last piece of this side for, I'm essentially kind of calling this like my perimeter layers. Like you would cut your perimeter for if you were removing length, like at the base. Obviously we're removing some length here. So now what I'm going to do to just soften this up, because her top layer is gonna be pretty heavy, what I'm gonna do, this is where like I think of my butterfly haircut I did, because I'm gonna bring everything up like I did for that one. We are gonna come across the top. So I'm gonna do just a normal clean parting there. And I'm actually gonna bring everything up. And this is just gonna remove a little bit more length from that top layer. We're still gonna be moving at an angle here with our layers. So we're just softening up this top layer so it doesn't remain too heavy. So we're coming up, I'm twisting, I'm gonna let all that hair fall for that very front and then just cut. And then come from the back, twist, just a little bit more in here. I need to just clean that up a little more right in there. Perfect. And then I'm gonna take another section here for our top layer. And I'm gonna do this until where the comb leaves the head. So I'll have about one more section of doing these top layers. And we're gonna slightly over direct back to this part line here. And again, you can break this into two sections if you want. So I'll turn her sideways here so you guys can see. So we're coming up, let that bottom piece fall, cut. You can see my guide there, cut. And then one more section here. Again, we're going to where the comb leaves the head. And just go straight across. So again, we're lightly over directing towards our part line. You can break it in half if you want. I see my guide here, cut. Perfect. So now we have created our layers on our one side. This is where all the hair falls on our parted side. So I'm gonna repeat all these same steps on this other side, and then we'll get into the back. I'm not gonna talk through this side that I cut just because I wanna be able to get into a lot of in-depth when it comes to the styling. All right, and then what you wanna do, so now that we have these layers done on this other side, I'm gonna check my layers along the part. So I'm gonna grab a small section from the one side, and then a small section from the other side of her part line. And what we're gonna do is, instead of cutting these, I guess this is technically horizontal, we're gonna do it vertical. So instead of holding the hair this way to check, I'm gonna bring it sort of straight in front of me, because you can really see the difference there. So I need to take off more on this side. Gonna move back to my next section here. And just a little bit there in that middle there. So now that I've done that, all I'm gonna do is go back through these very top layers and just even it out. So same movements as before, and just lightly skim where you need to. And probably just barely right there. All right, so I'm gonna let out her back and I'm gonna spritz her down again because this mannequin is drying too fast. All right, so to start the layers in the back, while we have a side part in the front, I'm actually going to split her head down the center though, just because typically, even if you wear it to a part in the front on a side part, the back is always gonna look to somebody visually like a center part. So if you adjust the layers to meet wherever the side part is, in the back, they're gonna look a little different and they're gonna look maybe more lopsided because just the hair naturally is gonna fall straight down. So I come in, I make a center parting, and then what we're gonna do is, it's sort of essentially like a stationary haircut, which I've done a couple different haircuts where I break down the difference between a traveling and stationary guide. And so what we're gonna be doing is bringing all of our back layers towards the front, very similar to how we cut our sides. So what you'll do is come back to that ear, because again, we were in front of the ear. You're just gonna take your first section and you're sort of gonna repeat the same steps where you're bringing everything forward. So we're combing everything forward. You can break this up a little bit if you want. If it helps, you can bring out where your first guide is, and then just cut the hairs that are poking out. This part is really easy just because you're bringing all the way from the back, so there's gonna be less hair to cut in general. So as you can see here, I've got hair sticking out. Maybe you can't see that. I need to turn her more for you guys, sorry. All right, so you're bringing everything from the back forward, and you're just gonna look along with your guide, and you just literally are gonna cut the hairs that poke out. So we've got hair here to cut, and just nip it. And just continue doing that all the way through. So you'll take your next piece here. This is gonna come completely forward. So comb that hair. Take this, and actually this whole section is probably not even going to end up getting cut. Let's see, I'm just gonna bring it forward. Just maybe a little bit, there's some guys there. So that's another way that you can do it. You could just comb forward. This might be easier than standing in front of them too, actually. Forward, you're twisting. and just remove those pieces that you see. The further back you get into the head, you're just not gonna have much to cut off just because you're over directing everything forward. If you're unsure what a stationary guide is versus traveling, I mentioned that. I'll link another video in the pinned comment as well that I do a side-by-side comparison of a traveling guide versus a stationary guide haircut. And then I'm gonna do the other side, and then I will show you how I blend in that very top layer of the sides and the back, and then we will get her styled, and I will show you some curling tips. So everything's coming forward. I'm just twisting and cut what sticks out. Okay, so now what we're going to do to connect our top layer that's in here from the sides to the back section, we're gonna do it still very similar to how I did that top, where we're bringing everything up and at a diagonal. So we're gonna stay along with that center part here for the back of our head. And what we're going to do is take a little bit from each side. And then what you'll want to do is take enough from your front section. Do the same on the other side here. Just a little bit more. And then what we're gonna do is comb everything straight up, same as we did when we were creating our top layer here. And then everything comes straight up, and you're just gonna follow the angle. See my guide? And cut. And then we're gonna direct back just a little bit more coming into that crown back section. And just cut. So what that's gonna do as these fall, we have a nice even flow that goes from the front to the back. So this top layer is just gonna fall really nice into the rest of this hair back here. So I'll show you on this camera. You've got your top layers here, and as they fall in, it blends in with the rest of the back length. So you have a nice movement. You'll get sort of a shorter vibe, feeling of a layer if these front pieces come towards the back, but it's not quite as many layers as in the front with the face frame, because it's always easier to style our front than the back. So what I'm going to do now is I'm gonna get her blown out straight. I'm just gonna use a nice volume mousse so that way you guys can see what it looks like with some bend and bounce, and then I'm gonna show you how you can create a lot more movement and texture with the curling iron and how you have a little bit more versatility with it. All right, so we've got her dried and styled, and I'm gonna show you what it looks like straight. It came out so good. We've got a lot more movement through the sides, along the face. I did some slow motion shots for you guys too. So it really opened up and gives a lot more movement to the face. You don't have those like really long pieces kind of weighing and dragging the hair down. And then through the back, you still have movement and shape, but they're a little bit longer of a layer in general. So it's gonna be much easier for you to style that on your own at home, but you get all that shape still around your face. And this mannequin had a lot of hair. So we're gonna curl her now, and I'm gonna be using the Super Curl. This comes with, like I mentioned before, 3 barrels. So you really get some options here. because this is longer, typically longer hair, you can use a little bit larger of a barrel. A larger barrel is always going to produce a softer wave or curl versus smaller. And also depending on the length, because they're larger, you're able to wrap like more hair at a time around it. So you move through the head a little bit faster. But if you want a tighter curl, always go down a size. Like last night I styled my hair with this one. This is their smallest size. And it was like super tight and big. I was obsessed with it, but what I like about it is now my hair today looks like this and I didn't do anything to it. I sleep with my hair up in a bun on the top of my head and I just let it out and fluffed, and it still looks good because the curls were tighter. So I'm gonna show you how I like to curl the hair. So you're gonna come in and take your first piece of hair. And what I like to do is you want your section of hair to be no wider than your barrel. If it's too wide, it's gonna take the hair a lot longer to get the heat evenly distributed through it. So always keep that in mind with your section. No more wider than the width of your barrel. So to use the Supra, it's super easy. You just come in, you place the hair in. You want a little bit of hair left out from that clamp. Once that's in, you watch this. It rotates right up. I'm so obsessed with it. It's so easy. So you can let it out one of two ways. You can either come in and just let it out, and you've got a nice curl here, or another option I'll show you. We're gonna do the same thing. Little hair, roll it up. We'll let it sit a couple seconds just to give a little bit more bend to it. And then what you can do when you wanna let it out, you can either unravel the barrel, twisting, and then just kind of glide that out through the ends. And it creates just a little bit more softness through the ends. So whatever you're comfortable with. So I'm gonna show you one more time. Take your section. Again, you want it to be no wider than the width of your iron. Place the hair in at the clamp. A little bit is left out. Put your hand on the button and it just goes straight up. It's so easy to use. It's like foolproof. All of my clients in salon actually that use rotating curling irons are like, it's been a game changer. What did I do without one? So if you struggle with curling and you feel like this iron might work for you, I guarantee you that it will, because you don't have to sit there and figure out how to get it in, get it out. It's really easy. So I'm gonna go through and curl all of her hair. I always say the type of layers that I did for this cut are like the perfect layers for like wearing your hair straight or curled, just because you have options. So another thing you can do too, if you are somebody who your curls have a harder time holding curl in general, you would want to use a texturizing spray before you curl your hair. What it's going to do is add a little grit to the hair, so there's a little bit more texture and the hair's able to bend more on the iron. So you just do a light coat first, place your iron in, and then rotate up like normal. So I'm just gonna continue this all the way up the rest of her head. Again, sections no wider than the width of your curling iron. Use a texture spray if you wanna add a little bit more grit to the hair, if you're somebody who their curls have a hard time holding. And you can even set with a hairspray after you have let the hair out of the iron to add a little bit more hold to it. And another little bonus tip, if you want to add more movement and texture to your curls, simply just change the rotation that they go, which is super easy with this iron too as well, which I love. All right, here we have our finished and final look with it curled, again with the Supra rotating 3-in-1 curling iron. She's got a lot more movement now all through her hair, and the curls are a great way to add even more movement and texture to the hair compared to what this looked like when it was straight. I really hope you guys enjoyed today's cutting tutorial. Be sure to check out the Supra curling iron linked below, and I will see you guys in the next video.